Peace and love, family. Welcome to U.S. Political Prisoners and You, brought to you by the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition and EPPC. I'm Brother Frank, and today is day 29 of Jazz Appreciation Month. So I hope that you are enjoying these days of jazz, reflecting on what jazz is, and this is part four, and we're focusing on South African trumpet player, Hugh Masekela, right? Hugh Masekela, incredible artist, and I have a number of his songs on my playlist, and I really enjoy the song "Mama" because it makes me think about my mother. And she's now an ancestor, but when you think about a mother, how strong a mother's love, a mother's strong love is stronger than any threat. So before we get into his life, I just wanted to talk briefly about what just transpired. Mumia has celebrated a birthday. I was in Philly. I was honored to be amongst the comrades advocating for his freedom. We had a rally. We talked to whoever came by who was driving particularly. Most people honked. There was one person that I've seen that gave us the finger, but that's going to happen, right? But we still have to hold firm to our position. We want Mumia home. I was inspired by seeing a younger generation there. A number of people were a lot younger than me. So that is letting me know that there are people who are becoming conscious of Mumia, right? They're just not being informed. There's not just being given information about Mumia and just reading it and just going along their day, but they're actually combating against the various distractions that's coming in their lives, and they're realizing that this is important. So for those who were there during that time, I salute you and thank you for being there, because you inspired me to continue to do this work. So that being said, this being the fourth part of this series, the final part until we go to May, which is African Liberation Month, and we'll have a number of topics that we'll discuss. But we talked about the history of jazz. We talked about where it started and why it was there. It's starting in Congo Square, now known as, I think, is Louis Armstrong Square. But this was a place where we gathered, where we talked about what was going on, and we played music. Our music allowed us to exercise, right? We dance, we exercise. Exercise is a part of training. You train before you fight. And I think that, once we start to see that science, then we start to appreciate how valuable and how important and how powerful jazz actually is. We talked about John Coltrane, and we talked about him creating Alabama, and how him being from Hamlet, North Carolina, and him being around segregation and being disturbed by it to the point that he had to do something, and he used his talent, he used his skill as a musician to reflect what was going on in his mind, and to inspire others to dig deeper into themselves and decide that they're going to do something, or they're going to do something that is going to be an asset to their people. And so we salute him for that. We talked about Nina Simone, and we talked about her life and how life was similar to Mumia's, right? And in fact, as they became conscious, they became more committed to a cause. Nina Simone spent hours practicing to be the artist that she became. We know Mumia, he was very serious about being a journalist. He wrote a number of books. He committed himself. So they both utilized their talents to address our issues, to address our struggle for our liberation, for our right to self-determination. Now we come to our brother, Hugh Masekela, right? So I'm going to get into his bio right now so that we, as I say, would have that menu before we enjoy the full course, right? So Hugh Rampolo Masekela, April 4th, 1939. January 23rd, 2018, was a South African trumpeter, flugelhornist, cornetist, singer, and composer who was described as the father of South African jazz. Masekela was known for his jazz compositions and for writing well-known anti-apartheid songs, such as Soweto Blues and Bring Him Back Home. He also had a number one U.S. pop hit in 1968 with his version of Grazing in the Grass. Early life. Hugh Ramapolo Masekela Twala was born in the township of Higo in Witbank, now called Enmalalini, South Africa, to Thomas Selina Masekela, who was a health inspector and sculptor, and his wife Pauline Bowers Masekela, a social worker. His younger sister Barbara Masekela is a poet, educator, excuse me, poet, educator, and ANC activist. As a child, he began singing and playing piano and was largely raised by his grandmother, who ran an illegal bar for minors. At the age of 14, after seeing the 1950 film Young Man with a Horn, in which Kirk Douglas plays a character modeled on American jazz contest Biz Bender Beck, Masekela took up playing the trumpet. His first trumpet was bought for him from a local music store by Archbishop Trevor Huddleston, the anti-apartheid chaplain at St. Peter's Secondary School, now known as St. Martin's School, Rottensville. Huddleston asked the leader of the then Johannesburg native municipal brass band, Uncle Sorter, to teach Masekela, the rudiments of trumpet playing. Masekela quickly mastered the trumpet. Soon, some of his schoolmates also became interested in playing instruments, leading the formation of the Huddleston Jazz Band, South Africa's first youth orchestra. When Louis Armstrong heard of his band from his friend Huddleston, he sent one of his own trumpets as a gift for Masekela. By 1956, after leading other ensembles, Masekela joined Alfred Herbert's African Jazz Review. From 1954, Masekela played music that closely reflected his life experience, the agony, conflict, and exploitation faced by South Africa during the 1950s and 1960s, inspired and influenced him to make music and also spread political change. In his music, he portrayed the struggles and sorrows, as well as the joys and passions of his country. His music protested about apartheid, slavery, government, the hardships individuals were living. Masekela reached a large population that also felt oppressed due to the country's situation. Following a Manhattan Brothers tour of South Africa in 1958, Masekela joined the orchestra of the musical King Kong, written by Todd Matshikiza. King Kong was South Africa's first blockbuster theatrical success, touring the country for a sold-out year with Miriam Makeba and the Manhattan Brothers. Nathan Medell Ledley in the lead. The musical later went to London's West End for 2 years. So that's a bio on his story. We say that he was exposed to anti-apartheid movements. He decided that he was going to do something on his end, and he came up with music that would reflect how he was feeling. And I think that says a lot about him. I think that his example need to be studied. You know, he recently just had a birthday during the month of Jazz Appreciation Month. So, you know, a happy belated birthday to the ancestor. May we continue to hold him deep to our heart in our theory and practice. Is obviously because you have to manifest your theory, your clearest understanding of your theory in practice. You got to decide that you're going to do something with what you have. And that is the distinction between being conscious and being informed. So when we look at his life and we look at his upbringing and we look at the situation in apartheid, he's playing a position that I'm going to be on the side of those who are being oppressed. One song that he made that made me think about his talent and his passion and his love was a song he had called Mama. That made me think about my mother and just think about the strong love that a mother has for a child. Just think about how do you emulate that love? Where do you show that love? You know, you usually show that love to your other siblings, your community, your nation, right? And he loved he loved his nation, right? He loved South Africa, and he had a serious problem with people being oppressed, people being exploited, people dealing with hardships that are not necessary, but realizing that there is injustice. Right, people, outsiders, colonialists, they come to your country because of what your country has, the riches, the resources, the people, right? They come in there to exploit all of that. They come in there not to befriend you, but to oppress you, to subjugate you, to put you in a position that is going to be beneficial to their ideas. So to come to infiltrate a culture, to engage in that form of behavior is only going to cause people to resist, cause people to be conscious, cause people to make a decision about what they're going to do with their time and the rest of their lives. So the brother decided that he was going to stand up. He was principled, right? He was taught by people who were very clear about what was going on in their country and what was clear about what had to be done, right? You have the killings by the oppressor. You have the incarceration by the oppressor. You have a number of things that's going on to your people that you know are not right. And you know that this is going to be a continuous process if nothing is going to be done. So with his talent, he was driven to actually do something. So I'm watching a documentary on YouTube, and in the documentary, he talks about what was going on during that time. He talked about Vietnam. He talked about, you know, him taking a position, him meeting and talking to Harry Belafonte, and him thinking about going back to South Africa and fighting, right? And Harry Belafonte said, you should stay where you're at, right? Because this time he's in the United States. He's, I guess, getting work, getting gigs. And Harry Belafonte convinced him to stay because Harry Belafonte is telling him because of the situation in South Africa, you are going to benefit the struggle for liberation by being where you're at, by raising awareness about the social conditions in South Africa. So he listens to Harry Belafonte, and he brings more awareness about what's going on in South Africa. And I thought that really was interesting to me, right? It was interesting because, for instance, when I look at the work to free our political prisoners, you might be in a particular community and you represent that idea where you're at, right? There are people in that community that's not familiar with the idea of political prisoners, and they are not familiar of what might should be done, right? So that's your role, that's your position. You let them know that they are political prisoners and there is something that you can do. There's elected officials that can advocate on your concerns. There are elected officials that can make phone calls to other people who are in a position to get things done that you need done. In the case of political prisoners, you can write to a political prisoner, and now you engage. Now you're talking. Now you're exchanging ideas. You're becoming more informed about their situation. Learn about political prisoners, because I know that Hugh Masekela, he was aware about what was going on. He was aware of martyrs. He was aware of political prisoners, and it bothered him, right? But he was taught by people who were involved in the struggle for their people's right to self-determination. He knew that that existed, and he decided to do something about it. So his example is an example that we in 2026 need to take serious, right? Just mentioned earlier, Mumia. I was so pleased by that younger generation being there. And I know even before I met up with the group, I seen a jazz musician and I attempted to make contact. You know, I'm hoping that he gives me his information because I inquired about a price for doing fundraisers. But when I'm doing this, right, when I'm seeing what's around me, I'm gathering resources, I'm gathering ideas. I'm trying to figure out, you know, how can I take this work to another level? How can I make a particular area or a particular group of people aware of political prisoners. There's talent somewhere, and I'm going to see what that talent is willing to do as it relates to the freedom of our political prisoners. So anyway, when I seen this jazz musician and I attempted to exchange contacts, I gave him my phone number. He told me that I would have to speak to his manager. But I say that to say that, you know, there's so much talent around us, and once we use that talent, then now we could have a stronger force to freeing our political prisoners. But before I continue, I just want to take this moment to say that for those of you who have not subscribed to Black Power Media, please do so. Encourage others to subscribe to Black Power Media, because this is our platform. It is how we control our narrative, right? We're engaged in a war of propaganda, right? People saying, or the state says that there's no political prisoners in the United States, that these people are criminals, and criminals need to be in prison for as long as the state says that they should. We're saying that these people are not criminals. They're captured freedom fighters, and they had a life prior to them being in prison, and that life was about organizing. That life was about connecting to the community, advocating for the interests of the community, and they was a threat to the state, right? The state don't want to see people organized. The state thrives or profits on our pain, our misery, our destruction, our disunity. It profits off of that, and not on our peace, not on our unity, and not on our tranquility, right? So when we're looking at this situation and we understand the mechanics of capitalism, now we understand that capitalism is going to gravitate towards what is more profitable. And I think that when you have this clarity on this particular idea, now you're going to understand there's no neutral ground when it comes to politics. And our beloved brother understood that. And in South Africa, you're dealing with apartheid. There are a number of laws that are implemented to keep people subjugated. And when you look at all these laws, I believe it was over 100 laws that was there. Imagine coming outside, imagine violating the law and then being in prison. So now whatever you was able to contribute to your family, that's compromised because of your void. But the system is in its way constructed this way in South Africa and during the time of apartheid to control people, to make sure that there is an oppressed class and there's a class that's doing the oppression. And the class that's doing the oppression is indeed going to have a better life. So the brother was courageous, right? Courageous in standing up against apartheid. He didn't care about the backlash. He was driven by those who came before him, those who made sacrifices. He was uneasy about the current climate, the current situation, and he was going to be determined to change those issues, to change those conditions. And he did it wherever he was. And you know, we have to respect that, and we have to be inspired, because when you look at what's going on, right, we're saying, oh, how long has this been going on and how long will it last? But America's about to celebrate 250 years, right, of existence, and this coming July 4th. And when we look at that, that's over 200 years of oppression. That's over 200 years of bloodshed. That's over 200 years of oppression people and putting people in positions that are not necessarily favorable for their future, but are favor for the continuation of this dominance over them. But throughout that history, you had your Malcolm X's, you had the Marcus Garveys, you had the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, you had the Sojourner Truths, you had the Harriet Tubmans, and so many more. And it's a long list of them. And they stood up, they fought back, and they changed their reality as much as they could during the time. But it started from them being conscious. There was a distinction between them being informed and them being conscious, right? They were informed initially about what was going on, but once they became conscious, once that reached another level to the point that they were disturbed uh, when they was witnessing what they were witnessing, right? They decided that they were going to do something. They got educated, they got motivated, and they organized. And the result was a change in our reality. Of course, we have more work to do, right? But the one thing that we know is that when you stand up, when you fight back, when you take a position, there's an opportunity present. There's an opportunity to change a reality. Our brother Masekela taught us that through his music, through his ability to capture an audience. This documentary showed him playing, it showed him in sync with the band. He's singing, and the people who are witnessing him singing, they know the songs. And these songs that you're singing, right, black, white, in between, you know that is based on a current situation. And now you start to decide, you know, if I'm reciting this song and I'm singing this song, what can I do about the message in this song? How can I change the reality that this song is talking about? Where should I be? Who should I join? How I should support? And that example of what a musician can do with their talent needs to be implemented in 2026, right? If you're a jazz musician and you're available to do some work, you know, I love to talk to you. I love to build with you. I love to talk about doing some work around political prisoners. If you're up to that, that's the type of work that I'm talking about doing. So when I talk about work, I'm talking about some organized action in a particular community. But definitely, you know, my focus is Queensbridge because of the time that I spend there and the relationships that I built and my ability to talk to a number of different people who did, particularly Sugar Ray, around getting things done, because that's my base. That's my community base as it relates to what's going on in that community and as it relates to the idea of political prisoners. That's where I want to circulate that idea. So when people come outside, they might see somebody like me, or they might see a sign up in a store or a sign in the lobby, might be an open letter, or just might be a leaflet that's posted up and letting them know about a political prisoner. I know me and a young comrade by the name of Ariana, you know, we put up a number of flyers on Ronald Reed, just letting people know his name. Because once they start knowing his name and then start understanding that situation, when they see me again, they're going to talk to me, right? They're going to say, "Oh, I've seen that. You must be responsible for putting this information up there." And I said, "Yes, I am. And this is why I'm doing it. I understand what's going on. I understand that if we don't organize to free our political prisoners, they're going to die in prison." And what does that say about us? Does it say that we're appreciative of them? And our brother, Hugh Masekela, he showed appreciation for those who came. As his bio said, you know, he had relatives that were in the anti-apartheid movement. So just imagine that type of discussion in his household. And it's something that challenges your manhood, challenge your humanity, right? Because can you say that you're humane if you know that there's an inhumane situation going on and you're not challenging it, you're not stepping up, you're not doing what is necessary? Your sleep is going to be disrupted. And when I looked up his bio, and it said that he had children. So if he has children and he's raising his children and he's telling his children about South Africa, how his upbringing was and the reality of apartheid, you know, how does it feel as a parent if you can't protect your child? You got to tell your child that they have to act a certain way and they have to accept certain things. If not, they're going to be in prison. You know, that doesn't really look too good on you as a parent, because you're telling your child that they should stand up and fight back, that they should stand up and be strong, be brave, have courage. And yet you're telling them that they need to be very cautious with this system that's in play. So you're contradicting yourself. and now you lose value as a parent. But our children are very smart. They pay attention to detail, especially the detail that has a impact on their lives. Of course, they develop differently, but when they become an adult and they reflect on their childhood and the things that they didn't like, they're going to look at your skill as a parent. And so for our brother Hugh Masekela to be the musician that he is, his parents did a great job. One was a social worker, one was an inspector. So they were keen on the importance and the value of paying attention to detail. So that's important, extremely, for a musician, the ability to pay attention to detail. Who's in sync, who's in rhythm, how long is the solo going? A number of those things going to come up during the performance and even practice. So when that happens, when your performance goes, everything is the way it should be. And that allowed him to have that impact in his area, in his craft, to address apartheid. So in 2026, as we appreciate jazz musicians have that responsibility. If they are going to honor somebody like this brother, if they're going to honor somebody like Nina Simone, if they're going to honor John Coltrane. Because we hear about musicians, we hear about artists talking about how great this person was, but they don't always get in the totality of the person, right? How could you talk about Hugh Masekela being great and not talk about his politics and not try to show respect to his legacy by doing something political, when in fact there's no neutral position when it comes to politics? You either for something or against it. You're not in between. Because even if you want to take a position and say that you're liberal, right? Say some people try to say that they're liberal on different issues, but if you're liberal on political prisoners, how is that going to be beneficial to a political prisoner being free, right? We have to be real clear when we talk about our politics. We have to understand the history of the United States. We have to understand the history of political prisoners in the United States, the history of martyrs in the United States. And now we have to ask ourselves, what does that mean to us? What are we going to be willing to do? So to those who are listening, if you're interested in doing work around formations dealing with political prisoners, contact me at 646-543-0720. Again, that's 646-543-0720. Always looking for a musician. Obviously, I know that musicians, they have rent to pay. They have a number of things that they have to do. And so I don't expect musicians to do things for free. But let's talk about the price, and I'll see who I could get to help out with covering that price. But the point I'm saying is that it's important for us to have this dialogue. Let's see what we have. Let's see where we can go. Let's see what we can get done, because our political prisoners deserve our best effort. Our political prisoners need to be home with their family, enjoying holidays, if they celebrate holidays, or just enjoying family reunion, family gatherings, birthdays of family members, baby showers of the newborns, the future in our families, the future leadership in our families. They're deprived of that. Just imagine how many birthdays Mumia Abu-Jamal missed. Just how many funerals Mumia Abu-Jamal missed. Enough is enough. But this doesn't come to an end unless we are as brave as our brother Huey Masekela is or was, however you see the situation, because his legacy is still here. So his legacy represents who he and what he is, right? And that goes from one generation to a next generation. So the new musicians that's coming in, that's studying him, they're going to look at what's going on. They're going to look at the reality of political prisoners and a number of atrocities that continue to plague our community, our nation, our people. But none of this changes without commitment and sacrifices to fundamental principles in the everyday lives of professional revolutionaries. those who understand what it means to be conscious of the relationship that we have in the United States. And I'm talking about the worker to the boss, or whatever title that they're calling themselves. Could be a CEO, it could be whatever it is. But that relationship is one of exploitation. But our political prisoners demonstrated commitment and sacrifice. They demonstrated bravery, courage, and being principled. So in the spirit of Hugh Hugh Masekela, may we not forget about our responsibilities, our duties when it comes to our talents. With that being said, y'all know the call, free them all.